The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not reflect the official stance of their employer or any affiliated organizations. Welcome back to the Counsel House podcast. I'm your co-host, Daniel Abramoff. And today's episode, we have a special guest, Jennifer Scoliard, SVP, Deputy General Counsel over Litigation at Cenlar FSB. Today, we spoke about something very near and dear to the heart of a lot of legal professionals, and that is civility and professionalism in the legal industry. How important it is to be able to build and form relationships internally as well as with your outside counsel, and to be able to get through very difficult cases with opposing counsel. The importance of making sure that you're always aware of the civility and professionalism that needs to be involved in these cases. I hope you enjoy. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So just off the bat, this topic I think is very relevant for a lot of attorneys when dealing with high stakes litigation or different types of matters when it comes to dealing with opposing counsel, your own outside counsel. So this topic, I think, when you and I were talking, it really raised a lot of interest to discuss. So really just getting into it, in order to control costs, control the matter in a way that is you can see an ending in sight, you will have to be able to handle different types of opposing counsel. And when they're incredibly aggressive, how does that go? How do you continue to maintain that cooperation?
When I see counsel come in really aggressive, and no, it doesn't have to be a high stakes litigation for counsel to be aggressive. It just depends on who you get or how personally invested that particular opposing counsel is in their matter. But I always come in professional. I always come in with maybe a good morning, good afternoon, and try to set the tone that way. I always try to get on the phone. So that because some people are kind of like what you would call a paper tiger, where their emails are like, oh my goodness, and then you get them on the phone and they're perfectly fine. So I always want to start with good morning, hey, can we set up a time to discuss this, and kind of set the tone there on the call. And that can really, really help a lot, because then the opposing counsel gets to see what you're like, what it's like talking to you. And you just may find that you can be diametrically opposed, but you can still have a conversation, civil conversation, professional conversation, going over the points of each other's cases.
And within that process, also your outside counsel will get involved a lot. And so the need to balance and sort of advocate on behalf of their client, which is you, right? How important is that to be able to maintain that civil tone?
It's huge. Because my outside counsel has a vitriolic relationship with opposing counsel, that's just going to skyrocket the courts. Because what happens is when there's no professionalism, civility, or cooperation in any way, cooperation's not the right word, but when there's no civility or professionalism, what happens is you start getting into motion practice and discovery disputes, and everything is a dispute. Everything. And everything takes a bad tone. And that's just going to rack up your costs, because if you have to fight on every little thing, that's more attorneys' times. The meter's going to be running on every single little thing if you get into that contentious relationship. And I've had that before, where it's cost thousands as a result.
And tons of time as well from
Yes.
your team, when you could be focused on bigger fires to put out. And so you'd mentioned before that building a good rapport with opposing counsel can actually help in reducing these fees and being able to collaborate on just the civility and professionalism within these situations. How exactly do you see it does allow you to control the costs of a matter?
When you have a professional and civil relationship with your opposing counsel, you can respect each other's positions, even though you're diametrically opposed, and you can talk and have civil discourse about, okay, how can we resolve this? Yes, I understand your position, you understand mine. Can we meet in the middle somewhere? Can we do a mediation? It really helps to kind of get to the point sooner. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to, go all the way through litigation. Other times, maybe not. It also is helpful when your opposing counsel knows you're a straight shooter and on the level. Certain things like, hey, can I get a continuance or an extension or something like that? They're more likely to give you that extension or agree to a continuance based on that.
And that's what's interesting is, you had mentioned that every little thing can become a battle if you do not have that. Whereas it's almost the opposite, that you would be able to free up things for the other side and they would do the same for you. And in a very strange situation, while you're opposing each other, you're also somewhat helping through that process, getting through that, which is very fascinating. How do you go about fostering relationships with opposing counsel, even when you're really head to head?
It's always keep it professional, always keep it civil. Sometimes, I might start out the conversation or end the conversation with something that's not case related. Hey, what'd you do this weekend? Or hey, I'm on my way to wherever, or something like that. Phillies, Red Sox, whatever. Some little thing that kind of just, you know, helps keep the tone civil. And it just depends on the relationship I've built, how we start out a conversation.
And I mean, ultimately, the importance of professionalism and civility, it's not only important when working with opposing sides. A lot of times when working internally with your clients, that is the importance of that could potentially be overlooked. What are some long-term benefits that you've seen that come from maintaining those relationships?
This is a subject near and dear to my heart. The main thing is when you're dealing with anyone, but when you're also dealing with your clients, be it in private practice or in-house, you always want to make sure you treat people with respect, you show appreciation, you show reciprocity. If they help you out in a jam, you help them out in a jam or find someone who else would, and that you're always professional. You need to build a relationship of trust. The people you are communicating with need to feel like they're not being judged, that they're not going to get yelled at, that they're not going to be made to feel bad or bullied in some sort of way. They need to feel comfortable, because from a litigation perspective, I need to know everything.
Yeah.
The good, bad, and especially the ugly. And I can't have someone being afraid to tell me something, because then I can't effectively defend the company. I need them to feel comfortable and trust me and be open, because there is no such thing as a pleasant surprise in litigation. In my 27 years, I have yet to have a pleasant surprise in litigation. So that is one of the biggest benefits. And I would say if people are afraid to come to you, you need to look at yourself.
Yeah.
That's a you problem that you need to solve. Because it's just so important that people feel comfortable and trust you, because that's how you're going to effectively defend the company and manage your case, and stay on top of things and avoid surprises.
And in a world where there's becoming more and more of a need to have in-house attorneys going to a new place, and it definitely seems that the way someone is treated within especially the wild time of litigation, it means way more than I think any of us can truly understand, because a person's mental health and well-being plays into all of that, and the way they do their job and the way they wake up and sort of want to do what they're supposed to do. And then on top of that, it's an interesting side of things, because the legal industry is really only so big. So attorneys will go from A to B with still remembering their experiences. So I think you're incredibly right that while pointing out the intricacies and importance of being able to work in tandem with opposing counsel and also get your outside counsel on the same page of doing so, it goes hand in hand also with your internal team. So there's a lot of different pieces at play that all interconnect. And that's why I feel that this is a very important topic to discuss.
Tone is everything. Tone with your opposing counsel, tone with your outside counsel, because you got to make sure you have a good relationship with your outside counsel. If there's friction there, that's going to be a problem. That's going to cost more money, cost more time. But tone is very important. Whenever I send an email, I never want it to sound like I'm barking an order from legal. It's always good morning, good afternoon, hi, or it will be thanks as always for your help. And just to build that tone, because we've all had it happen where you just send a plain vanilla email, plain vanilla, but it comes across as curt on the receiving end.
Right.
And so those are ways to do that. And I also try to make sure that, I show appreciation a lot. Thanks. Have a good day. Have a good evening, whatever. You're the best. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you for getting that to me so quickly. Thank you so much. Those little words of appreciation and show of appreciation, just the of investment on it is huge, because that's helping you build a relationship and helping you build a comfort level with the person you're communicating with.
In a situation where opposing counsel is just unwilling to cooperate, how does that look then? And what are the chances that you can build that cooperation?
There are two things you can do. One, I had actually a situation a few years ago with an opposing counsel where everything was a battle. Everything was just, not vitriolic, but not, unpleasant tone, almost nasty tone. And in that situation, I finally said, because it was one of those situations where you see the email and you're like, oh, I don't want to open that. I finally said to my opposing counsel, can we hit the restart button and have a call? And we had a call and we talked and we reset the whole relationship. And from that point on, we were able to, we still zealously advocate our clients, but we worked together so much better. There was no nasty grams going back and forth. It was just professionals. And then later on, after the case was over and that attorney went out on his own, I started referring cases to him.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So, and you never know. You always remember that the world is so much smaller than you think.
Yeah.
So when you show yourself as a professional and you show civility, people remember that. People remember how you make them feel. And then if your name comes up, people aren't going to roll their eyes or say, oh, yeah, I know her.
Yeah.
I've had some dealings with her. They will have positive things to say. And when you are also professional and civil, you not only make yourself look good, you make your company look good or your law firm look good. You look good in front of your client, which is important. You look good in front of mediators, in front of the court. That's always what they want to see. So there's just enormous benefit from being professional and really trying to have a civil relationship with opposing counsel. But now on the flip side, there are just some counsel who it's just not that they're just always going to be nasty.
Sure.
In that case, you do everything by email and you stay professional.
Right.
Let them do whatever they want. Let them hang themselves with their own rope, because those emails could end up in front of a judge. So you just always stay professional, to the point. No, characterizing anything, like that's horrific or something like that. I mean, don't embellish. Just
Right.
straight to the point and strictly professional, and let them look like a fool and hang themselves on the other end.
Exactly. And I think, when you had mentioned that you felt that it was okay, a good moment to say, hey, can we just do this? Let's hit this reset button.
Mm-hmm.
Let's actually have a conversation here. I think that it honestly takes someone to make that step. And it's not easy to do that. And I think that a lot of times people would rather just let things be, even if it ends up negatively. Later on, you had actually reached out to that attorney and brought them some business. Do you feel that there are similar benefits internally as well when it comes to working with your own outside counsel, and then with your colleagues as well when it comes to the long game?
Being able to have a good relationship with your outside counsel is very important, because you need to work as a team. And if there's friction there, you can't work as a team, and it makes them less effective, and it makes you as in-house counsel less effective. So, you want to treat it. I don't treat my outside counsel as a vendor. I treat them as my partner.
Sure.
And that's the relationship I like to foster. And I've had attorneys, outside counsel I've been working with for over 15 years. And that's just very important for everybody to reach the goal, which is to resolve the case quickly, efficiently, and inexpensively as possible. With respect to internally, if you get it's all about building trust. When you are professional and civil, people trust you, and then they let other people know, oh yeah, she's really nice. Oh no, you can trust her. They also trust the advice you give them. So it's not only when you're getting information from them, but when you want to give them advice, they trust you. This builds trust, and trust is so important when you're dealing with your clients, be it in private practice or being in-house counsel. You've got to have that trust of your people.
What's another example of how a civil relationship benefits you and the organization long term?
I recently had a case with someone who we both started out, very cordial, very civil. We both, listened to each other's arguments. We both said, okay, let's agree to disagree here. But we continued to work together because we both said, okay, how can we work together to get this resolved? We both wanted to get it resolved this was a pre-litigation matter, without going to litigation. And we got it done, and we got it settled, and we got it done. We didn't go to litigation, and there was no vitriol. There was nothing. And it was settled because we didn't have to go to litigation. I saved the company legal fees.
Sure.
Had we had to go down that path. And that person saved their client legal fees. So again, that goes back to, civility and professionalism, not only making you look good, but also looking good in front of your client.
And while you're walking on a very fragile floor with them, to be able to accomplish that, I think is something, because while most opposing counsels might not really always have it out for each other, the chances that they're going to come out of that both feeling like they did themselves and their companies a good service, I think that's slim. So being able to get to that point where you agree on what you don't agree on, I think that is a very fascinating point.
You always have to keep your client in mind, be it internal or if you're in private practice, because everybody at the beginning is like, yeah, let's go get them. Let's go be aggressive until they get that first bill.
Right.
And then all of a sudden everything changes. But your job as an attorney is to keep costs under control, and to resolve the matter as quickly as you can. If you come out of the gate yourself and you are not professional, or you're not civil, or you're constantly contentious about everything, you are costing your client money.
Right.
You are dragging it out further. Clients don't like that. So in order for you to be an effective lawyer and best serve your client, you need to be a professional, you need to be civil, and that reputation will continue to spread out, because again, the world is much smaller than you think, and you never know who's talking to who and who knows who. I've had people, reach out to me through LinkedIn or whatever. Oh, hey, so and so said they, and said you were really great and blah blah blah, and that's the kind of thing you want. And you want it internally too with your clients. I want people within my company to say, oh no, you can trust Jennifer, she's here to help us, you don't have to worry, she's really nice, she works with us all the time. Those are the things I would want people to say and think about me, because then I can effectively represent my company, because they're being open, they're being honest, they're giving me all the details that I need, all the information, no matter how bad, so that we can avoid surprises and I can strategize how to deal with that. And I've said, don't worry about how it sounds or whatever, just tell me and I'll be the one that figures it out. That's my job.
Right.
You just tell me, and then I'll take what you give me and I'll figure out the strategy.
These cases go for years. So
sometimes, yes.
Yeah. So to be able to avoid extra time in the beginning means potentially taking years off a case. So I think all these tips are incredibly valuable for various levels of attorneys who are either getting into these types of practices or currently dealing with this, and thinking perhaps, maybe I'm not the only person who feels this way, that it is worth taking these extra steps to be able to accomplish something that is not necessarily in sight at the moment.
Just the benefits are just long-term and widespread.
Yeah.
Of always being a professional, always being courteous, always, making people feel comfortable in having a conversation with you, or not try to avoid it, to say it another way. The benefits are just huge within your job, helping you to be a more effective lawyer, within networking, and word of mouth, both in your company or your law firm or outside with third parties. It's so important to do that and really show that. And when, as I mentioned before, people, they may not remember what you do, but they remember how you made them feel. And so that's something to always keep in mind, because that's how you build a relationship of trust. If you made someone feel bad or in some way, then they're not going to trust you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to feel, they're not comfortable, coming with you. And then you're only shooting yourself in the foot
Right.
with doing that. And you just never know where, your relationship with someone is going to lead. Maybe you're interviewing for a job and your opposing counsel, who you have a good relationship with, knows someone over at that place and can put in a good word for you, or you be a reference for you. That's just one example. But the other thing is, when I know I'm dealing with a straight shooter and I'm trying to think about strategy, I know, I can say, okay, this person's on the level. They're not going to make this claim unless they truly can support it. And I've seen that from my relationship with them, and they've always been on the level. It affects how you can strategize. And again, it's all about getting to a resolution sooner rather than later, in the least expensive way possible.
For my last question, I wanted to ask you, what would be a message you would want to give to younger attorneys getting into their practice now and are looking for insights?
A couple of tips. I mentioned before tone. Tone is everything. It is not the volume you use, it's the words you choose. You want to make sure that your tone is always civil and professional. You want to make sure you are making an intelligent argument. You don't need volume to make an intelligent argument. You need, intelligent words to make an intelligent argument. If you are someone who is just, being super aggressive or raising your voice or just, really being unnecessarily over the top, you're making yourself look bad. Not only in front of your opposing counsel, but you'll be making yourself look bad in front of your client. I've been on calls where all the parties have been on a call, and the attorney on the other side has just been super aggressive, super nasty, and he looked like a fool in front of his clients. He looked like a fool in front of us, looked like a fool in front of, our counsel. You're not helping yourself in any way. If you come into the relationships with intelligent arguments, civil discourse, and always being a professional, that is going to reflect on you. And that is where the benefits are going to come back to you long term in terms of relationships, especially for young lawyers. You really want to build networking relationships with people, certainly to help cultivate clients. If you're in private practice, that's very important. But you do not have to be aggressive and uncivil or over the top to zealously represent your client. You can do that. You can be a fighter for your client and yet still do it professionally and civilly. And you'll find that the immediate benefits is the cost is going to be less, which will make your client very happy. And the resolution oftentimes can arrive sooner rather than later. So it's just remember the tone and remember to always keep it professional, because as a lawyer, your reputation is everything. That's how we make a living. It's not just practicing law or going in court or doing transactions. It's also reputation. You want the reputation that you're a good lawyer, a professional lawyer. That's how you will get clients. That's how you will build relationships in-house. That's how you'll build relationships in your industry. So there's nothing but positive to come from setting the right tone and being professional and being civil.
Yeah.
Nothing but good things come from that.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This is an excellent topic, an excellent interview, and we're grateful to have our first in-studio interview with you, and we're looking forward to having many more.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.